I was just on the phone with Josh, and he is signing on now. Maybe give it 5 minutes.
Okay. Tony,
Yes,
you in charge of keeping score?
I'm going to do my best. Durant went for like 9 for 24 the last. If we could keep that defense up, we stand in good shape. But he's one of the best players in the league. That's a tough battle.
That was good defense. That was real good defense. In fact, that defense kept them in the whole first half.
Absolutely.
They didn't shoot anything.
I'll be amazed if he doesn't get 35 points tonight.
I know, right?
Not to be a naysayer, but
I know.
I heard a stat this afternoon that after a playoff loss, he averages something like 38 points a game.
Say that again?
Stat on Durant was after a playoff loss, he averages something like 38 points a game.
Well, he's not going to have as bad a game as he had.
Yeah.
They just have to keep playing that defense.
Yeah, that was good. My screen set up here. All right, well, it is 6:32. So the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health meeting for April 20th, 2022 is now in session. The first item on the agenda is coronavirus update. We have Deb or John. Give us some news.
Deb is not able to join us tonight, but she did send some updated data. Let's see, the total case count since the very start of this is 600 cases. Our current cases for April is 13. And as Deb would say, the home tests that are so readily available, she doesn't get automatic notification if those turn positive. She only gets notified if they call. So 13 might be low for what's actually occurring. It may be accurate, but that's what is PCR tests that she would be notified on.
Yep.
Our current positivity rate based on those numbers is 2.1%, while the current positivity rate for Massachusetts is 4.2%, about double. And last week, there were 221 PCR tests by Nahant residents, and 11 were positive.
All right, and you still have quite a few at-home tests available, town hall.
Yes, that was another thing I wanted to mention is that we received notice that those tests, which currently say they expire in April of 2022, on January 20th, the FDA granted a 3-month shelf life extension for those tests. So even though the box say April. The expiration date is actually 3 months beyond that. So those now are good until June.
Into July, right?
July, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good. So, hopefully they don't go to waste. So, yeah, so encourage anybody that needs, more test kits to go up to town hall and get them. I think they're still at the they're still at the library too. So, you might as well get them if you think you might need them, because it won't do us any good after July.
Mhm. I spoke with, I don't know how the board feels about this, but I spoke with Deb a little bit about it. I think we're at a position now where COVID updates could be presented by me during the town administrator report. And, it may not be required to post this as a joint meeting and have it as a reoccurring subject on future Board of Selectmen meetings. Something to consider. I think we're kind of at that point now, so I just wanted to share that, that Deb and I had had that conversation.
I mean, that sounds fine to me. I think, and if something should change in the wrong direction, we can always switch
Right.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. All right, anything more on COVID?
Nope.
All right, so next up is opening comments. And I have a number of announcements here. The 2022 resident parking stickers are now available for purchase at nahant.org. Stickers are $10 each. All outstanding bills must be paid to the town and the census completed. Compost areas open on Wednesday and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. A 2022 resident sticker is required. Visit the Public Works page at nahant.org for a list of accepted material. Curbside leaf pickup will be offered on Mondays, April 25th, May 2nd, May 9th, and May 23rd. Leaves must be in biodegradable bags only. No plastic bags will be accepted. No open barrels, no roots, root balls, or branches bigger than 4 inches in diameter. Leaves must be at the curb by 7 a.m. So it's Monday mornings for the next month, basically. Excuse me. Recycling for metal and white goods and TVs and computers begins April 30th. Recycling dates are the last Saturday of each month from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon behind the DPW garage on Flash Road. 2022 resident stickers are required. Visit the Public Works page at nahant.org for accepted materials. Certain fees may apply. Annual town election is Saturday, April 30th, 2022, not the 29th as was in the item this morning. Polling hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the main hall of Nahant Town Hall. Visit the town clerk's page at nahant.org for information. April 22nd, 2022 by 5 p.m. campaign finance report is due to the town clerk. May 31st, 2022 by 5 p.m. 30-day campaign finance report is due to the town clerk. Open to something that I don't know what it means.
Town on Land Study Committee.
Okay, I'm looking at this acronym. I don't know what that means. And my script just says open town on land study committee appointment.
Okay, I'll help you on this one.
I appreciate that.
The Board of Selectmen have an appointment on the Town on Land Study Committee. We have 2 items that will be going before the Town on Land Study Committee fairly soon.
Right.
And the board needs to be filled. So there's one appointment, and we really just wanted to, it would have been more helpful to spell that out on the agenda so people were aware of it. We'll do a posting on the website as well. that anybody interested in, being appointed to the Town and Land Study Committee, submit your letter of interest and to Kristen Taylor, KTAYLOR @nahant.org between now and the next 2 weeks. So today is the 20th. It'll probably be by the next Board of Selectmen meeting, which is the first Wednesday of May, May 4th.
Yeah, okay. So we can make an appointment on May 4th. And I know they do have some business that committee has some business to tend to, so. Good. I'd like to make another announcement, which is that all the boats have to be out of the wharf parking lot by May 15th. Jocelyn Marine is coming on the 14th to single launch day. So any boat owners that need to get their boats launched by Jocelyn, call them and get yourself on the list, and all your paperwork needs to be completed and submitted to the harbor master, mooring permits and all that stuff at that same date, by that May 15th date. Selectman Candy or Colin, you have any additional opening comments?
I'm all set for now, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things I should have picked up on the last meeting. And that is, we had a couple of young men in the town post some positive images of our town. And one of them was Jake Desmarais. And I had the article here from the item, which he won the Boston Bruins MIAA Sportsmanship of the Year Award. And I'm not familiar with it, but I'm guessing this is a very difficult award to win amongst a large group of men. So I think we should maybe send a letter or post a letter or something congratulating him.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think he's a senior at St. Mary's.
Yes, that's right. You're exactly right. The other thing was, and that is just to recognize that Diane Dumpy's son was on the Bryant basketball team, which made it into the NCAA Division Ones. And I think that's worth recognition.
Yeah, that's great.
And lastly, and Mark, I need your help on this. Been reading all over the place about Michael Cullinane posting a great time in the marathon. What was it? Under 3?
256. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great run.
Then he came back to town and did a double 9.9 flip off the town wharf.
Yeah, that's great. Great run. And also, Mark, your nephew, I'm forgetting what award he just won, but
Cole Hamanek. He I did the MIAA Student Athlete of the Year Award.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who was that?
It's my niece. He's my nephew, Reenie and
yeah.
They live on Emerald Road. He
Oh,
goes to
that's
Swan.
good. Excellent. Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah. Well, yeah, congratulations to those young athletes or middle-aged athletes in Michael's case. Not quite middle-aged, but yeah. Okay, so moving on to new business. Children's Mental Health Week is coming up, and Nahant is proud to be making the proclamation that May 1st through 7th, 2022 is Children's Mental Health Week. It supports the children of our community and their mental health, and we'll be joining our local communities of Boston, Lynn, Linfield, Swampscott, and Saugus, making this proclamation. So I am going to read this proclamation. I guess without diverging too much, I think it's a good thing that children's mental health is being, let's say, brought out from the shadows from the old days, and things like bullying are no longer accepted, and children's mental health really defines the trajectory of their adult life. So it is a critical thing in children's lives. So with that, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas good mental health is a key component to a child's healthy development, and Children's Mental Health Week provides the opportunity to focus on this important matter while celebrating accomplishments of children and families affected by mental health concerns. And whereas according to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, 1 in 5 children is diagnosed with a mental health condition. And whereas research has shown early identification and appropriate treatment of mental health disorders among children and adolescents provided them better opportunities to lead full and productive lives. And whereas children and youth with mental health problems and their families benefit from access to timely services and supports that are family-driven, youth-guided, and culturally appropriate, they also benefit from integration of behavioral health in primary care, education, child welfare, and whereas it is important that children and adolescents, along with their families and communities, learn about warning signs of mental health disorder and where to obtain necessary assistance and treatment. And whereas involvement and partnership of family members in the care and treatment of children and youth is essential to positive outcomes. And whereas Children's Mental Health Week was developed by families of children with emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs to focus on the needs of their children and families. In celebrating this year's theme, Action Changes Things, it is fitting to increase public awareness among Massachusetts citizens of the important issue. And whereas obtaining a full and accurate diagnosis of a child requires gathering information from diverse sources, including the family, school, and others involved with the child. And now, therefore, I, Joshua Antrim, Chair of the Nahant Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim May 1st through May 7th, 2022 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. That is the proclamation for the town of Nahant. Next item on the agenda is to approve an appointment of the Assistant to the Council on Aging Executive Director. We have a motion on that.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Michelle Marshall as the Assistant to the Executive Director of the Council on Aging.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes. I will, Mary Minor, the Council on Aging Director, can't be here tonight, so I will speak on her behalf. I sat in with the interviews with Mary and members of the Council on Aging Board. We had a tremendous amount of qualified, excellent candidates, and it was really difficult making the decision. However, Michelle really, separated herself enough to really put her at the top of the list. Her professional experience is directly related to the type of work that she will be doing for the Council on Aging in the assistant role, as far as helping the director plan out events and meals and different programs and executing upon those during the day. And she is extremely excited to join the team. And Mary and the Council on Aging Board are very excited to have her get started. This position is, for 3 days a week. Our current assistant, Ann Callahan, who does an amazing job and has been doing such a great job, asked to reduce hours down to 2 days a week. So this doesn't add a new position for the town. It supplements the hours that Ann is relinquishing, and the two of them together are going to be great for the Tiffany Room and for the other programming that COA offers our seniors. So it's a great hire. That's all I have.
Yeah, well, that's great. And, I read Michelle's letter and resume, and sounds like a great fit. And I'm glad that works out to keep Ann on board for the amount of work she wants to do. I know she's been doing an amazing job. And Michelle might be better known in Nahant as Michelle Roberto, her maiden name, which grew up here in Nahant. So welcome to the team, Michelle. Oh, we haven't voted yet. Sorry. Any further discussion on the appointment of Michelle Marshall to assistant to the executive director of the Council on Aging? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. The next item is to approve some Board of Selectmen meeting minutes. We have a motion on that.
Yeah, it's coming up. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from February 2nd, 2022 and February 16, 2022.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. We have a number of event requests, and we're going to combine them into one motion here. So who wants the honor of reading the long motion?
I'll let Mark do that.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the event request for the following: Nahant Little League, April 30th, 2022 through June 23rd, 2022, weeknights 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. and weekends starting at 10 a.m. at the Flash Road baseball fields. Coolidge Middle School, Reading, Mass. Kite Day, May 23rd, 2022 and May 24th, 2022 from 12 to 1:30 p.m. at Shard Beach. Also, the Johnson Elementary School, sixth grade, and scholarship award ceremony on June 16th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the main hall of the Town Hall. And the Hoop and Nickel 5 Mile Road Race, September 17th, 2022, starting at 2 p.m. at the American Legion Post 215 Nahant.
Second.
Any discussion? Nothing too unusual here. The league, as usual. The Coolidge Middle School in Reading has been having these kite days for the past few years at Short Beach. Johnson School graduation, of course, at Town Hall, and the Hoop and Nickel planning ahead, September 17th. Okay, any discussion on any of those? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. We have a few one-day liquor license applications as well.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve an all-day alcohol one-day liquor license to the American Legion Post 215 96 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. 01908 for the following dates and times: April 24th, 2022 from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. for a celebration of life for Fred Gove. May 7th, 2022, from 1 to 10 p.m. for a Kentucky Derby party and fundraiser. May 30th, 2022, from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a Memorial Day celebration. June 10th, 2022, from 4 to 9 p.m. for the flag retirement ceremony.
Mr. Chair, can I point out one thing?
Yes.
These are actually 4 different licenses, so it's a motion for an omnibus motion for 4 different licenses, just to make sure it's not under one, because it can't be just one
Yeah.
license.
All right. Does that need to be stated in the motion? I think in the motion needs to include and authorize the town administrator to sign the one-day liquor licenses for the approved events. That's part of the motion, right?
I don't have the motion in front of me.
Yeah.
But that might be a second motion.
Supposed to be.
Make
So
sure.
can you add that part, Gene?
What part are we adding?
After the list of events, the motion should include and to authorize the town administrator to sign the one-day liquor licenses for approval.
And authorize the town administrator to sign the one-day liquor licenses for approved events.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Other than town council's comment that these are individual licenses for those 4 one-day events. I have no further discussion.
I see Commander Fields is on if you want to ask him any questions or if he has anything he wants to add.
I'm sorry, Josh. I would thank you for approving the Humpernickel Road Race. Yeah, we did want to be proactive on that. But as far as these will be public events that there'll be more information coming along for that. So we're excited to, share the space and have a good time at these events. We also have for Memorial Day a special veterans victory photo exhibit by Robert Wilson that will be available the week leading up to Memorial Day as well. So appreciate your support on these events.
All right, thanks for the background, Bob. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Ongoing business. First item on the agenda is 2022 town administrator goals. And I didn't do my homework. The plan was for me to read off the consolidated goals, and short answer is I forgot to consolidate them. So we're gonna have to read them off next time. My apologies. All right, next item on the agenda is approve employment contracts from Nahant Police Department, Nahant Fire Department, and DPW.
Yeah, do we have individual motions for them, Tony?
No, we could do it that way, but actually, prior to this call, I was speaking with the chairman on some language that, was missing in 1 or 2 of the contracts that should be added in. That, doesn't change the negotiation or anything of that. It just makes them more consistent with the employee handbook regarding like benefited time. One contract just kind of points to the handbook and the other one kind of spells out what is actually written in the handbook. So we might want to be, to his point, Mr. Chairman, sorry to speak on your behalf, but to his point, we might just prefer to be consistent in all 3. So what I'll do is I'll add that language in, get it signed off from the 3 department heads, and then have it presented to you for a vote at the next meeting. if that's okay.
That's fine.
That sounds fine to me. Good pickup, Josh. I think it is important for the language in the contracts to mirror what is in the employee handbook. I know that in the past there were some issues regarding that. So I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, just to be consistent across the board, and as you know, I assume it's not so time sensitive that if we wait 2 weeks, there'll be any issue, Tony. And as Tony pointed out, it does not change anything from a negotiation point of view. It's just a matter of the sort of consistent language across the 3 contracts. And I think, sometimes the way these contracts work is, you look at the old one and you sort of replicate the words. So just to sort of make a clean slate going forward, it might be best to just clean it up a little bit and wait till the next meeting. That's good with everyone.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, next item on the agenda is vote to open and close the annual town meeting warrant and send to the advisory and finance committee. I guess we don't have maybe I'll just move that. I move that we vote to open the annual town meeting warrant.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Tony, you wanna?
So I'm sharing my screen, and I'm showing a track change version of the changes that are being presented for you to vote on. So, getting rid of the,
Tony, let me jump in. Should we vote on opening the warrant first, Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Right, so roll call vote on opening of the town warrant. Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Sullivan, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Okay, so the warrant is now open. So can you proceed with the discussion, Tony?
yes, so we've obviously, that we had in part of the header here, we referred to what draft we were on. That won't be included in the final warrant. This is the final warrant. We also made the changes in the greetings that talks about where the meeting is occurring at Town Hall, starting at 30 p.m. All of this is not changing. Article 17. We just today we got approval from the state revolving fund that $2 million as part of a borrowing article back in 2018 would be eligible to be used through the sewer revolving fund. Therefore, we can reduce this total borrowing article by $2 million because we've already been approved it back in 2018. So once we got the approval from bond counsel and from DEP's counsel, was happy to make this change. It still provides us enough funds to accomplish the capital plan. But it's a sound financial maneuver to, really kind of take this as conservatively as possible. I know that's, funny to hear when I'm talking about $18 million, but, instead of going for 20 when we already have the other 2 as previously approved by prior town meeting, we can reduce this down to 18. And for those who are just kind of hearing about this article for the first time, this allows us to borrow this sum of money through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, which is a long-term, low-interest loan. It works as similar to like a construction loan where you actually don't borrow the funds until the projects actually occur. And this amount of money sets us up for projects that will occur over the next 10 years. So happy to make this change, reduce it down by $2 million, which changes our projected debt schedule and is a better option for the town. Article 20, adding the language or any other sum of money, standard council language that was asked of us to include. Under the community preservation articles, there were some changes that came from the CPC that were have made and added to these articles. Nothing really substantial. The most substantial one is sub-article F, which really is just identifying the sources of the funds. That 45,167 would come from estimated revenues, and 29,833 would come from the reserve, instead of all 75,000 coming from the estimated revenues. Similar change here in sub-article H, where the total dollar amount is being broken up into estimated revenues and reserves. Lastly, our climate change article, and speaking with council, we wanted to add some language here that talks about what the funds can be used for. It's just being a little bit more clear that these funds can be used towards technical assistance for the effort of receiving grants for climate change projects, and be used as the matching portion to those grant programs. So many times those grants require a 10% or 25% or 50% match from the town. With this language, it allows us to use these funds, if passed, towards that match requirement. And then the last edit was we had the wrong year under Article 32. Also at the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee meeting the other day, they asked, to make sure that their committee was included in the warrant. It was already on here, so I didn't have to make that change, but I wanted to call out that it is there. So that's it.
It sounds good. On Article 17, it's good to see the amount be able to reduce from 20 million to 18 million. Still an awful lot of money, and there'll be discussions obviously at town meeting, but I think I'll just say now that this is looking forward to all the sewer infrastructure repairs, replacements, enhancements that need to be done over the next 10 years. And I think looking forward out that far and planning ahead and, facing up to these inevitable tasks, even though it's painful, is the right thing to do. Is my 2 cents worth on that one. And then is it Article 21 on the climate change one?
No, in the 30s.
Okay, sorry. But I just wanted to
29.
I just wanted to reinforce your statement there, Tony, that having this, many of these grants require a match of varying percentages. 25% is common. Recently, at least one of them has gone down to 10%, but having those funds available is really critical to getting these grants. So Again, a good example of some forward thinking and planning. So although it's sort of non-specific in terms of the wording, to me, that's the critical purpose for this article. So that's all I had to say.
Any changes to the FY23 budget?
No, no changes necessary.
Okay, so I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept the changes to the town meeting warrant as presented.
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Want to close the warrant now, Mr. Chair?
I think that's the next step. Make that motion.
What is it?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to close the town warrant.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. So we have no budget adjustments, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we
Oh, and that's an error on the agenda, that the sub E warrant changes.
yeah.
That must have been a placeholder from the draft.
Similarly, D, there's no budget adjustments there.
Well, yeah, that's not an error. We put it on there just in case there were any changes that needed to be made, but we don't need to make any.
Right. All right. So next item on the agenda is preserving East Point, and we've asked Attorney Jeff Blake from KP Law to give us an update on the legal proceedings related to preservation of East Point. I see Jeff is on the call here, so thanks for joining, Jeff, and with that, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everybody. It's good to see you guys again, and I hope you're starting to enjoy the spring. I will give you a rundown of all the cases that we have. I think we've got 5 or 6 of them right now with Northeastern. But I do want to give the caveat that I gave before. This is in litigation, so I'm not going to get too deep into strategy and give our thoughts are for next steps. What I will, though, is I'll give you an idea of where we were, where we are, and critical dates and a timeline. So to begin with, we'll start out with the case. I think that's the first case, which was the Article 97 case. As everybody probably recalls, Nahant Preservation Trust filed suit against Northeastern, claiming that they had essentially dedicated that part of East Point to the public good, and as such, any development on top of that was contrary to that, and it was essentially Article 97 land, which is conservation land and is not developable. The town ultimately joined that case and filed another claim, what was known as a promissory estoppel claim, which was only available to the town, in which the town indicated that it had taken certain steps in detrimental reliance upon Northeastern's dedication, and therefore Northeastern should be prevented from backing out. Those two cases are together. We joined, and it was not consolidated. We joined. The case has gone along now for quite some time. Discovery has closed. Northeastern filed a motion for summary judgment. The town and NPT have opposed that motion. The motion is scheduled for a hearing on May 20th at 9:30 a.m. in person in Salem. So if anybody wants to go down and watch it, they're certainly welcome to come down and watch it. But it's 9:30 in person in Salem. It won't be on Zoom, so you're not going to be able to just dial in. At that hearing, the parties, all three parties, probably the only time we've ever agreed on anything, have agreed to have the judge go out for a view, which means the judge will actually drive out to the site and take a look at the site. I think everybody thinks and agrees that it would probably be beneficial to the judge during our summary judgment hearing when we start pointing out things and making comments of and descriptions of the property and its proximity to Lodge Park in the town, etc., that it would be a very good idea for the judge to have actually gone out there and seen it. Unfortunately, a view is not evidence. Testimony is not taken during a view, and the general public is generally excluded from it. In fact, the parties have agreed to only have counsel there and possibly one representative of each plaintiff and defendant. So, I ask that, and I don't even know when the view is, but I ask that if people are out there and they see a judge walking around with guys in suits and gals in suits, that it's likely a view, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to go in and talk to people. So,
Hey,
in
Jeff,
the event,
could you just explain for those non-lawyers on the phone like me what summary judgment means?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have done that. So, the way the litigation process goes is somebody files a lawsuit through a complaint. The other party who's being sued files an answer. The complaint says you did X. The answer says no, I didn't. Discovery is then allowed, which allows me to ask them questions. You think I did X? Show me all the documents that you have that say I did X, and tell me through either written or depositions why you think I did X. Same on the other side. I think you did X. Tell me why you didn't do X, et cetera, et cetera. Once discovery is complete, we've exhausted, and we all know the facts. Then the parties have the option of filing what is known as a motion for summary judgment. And summary judgment is just that. It is a judgment on the papers. I have the facts. You've provided me with no facts that say I did this. And here, Your Honor, is why I think that I win on the papers. The other side will say, I think I win based on the facts that we have been presented during discovery. A summary judgment, if allowed, would dispose of the case. It's just like winning during a jury trial or a judge trial. Most of the time, courts, if there are any issues of material fact that need to be hashed out, courts will not grant a summary judgment. In fact, the standard is there's no issues of material fact, and the moving party is entitled to judgment as a matter of law. Here, Northeastern has moved. The town and NPT have indicated that they believe that they're entitled to judgment, and if they're not, there are material issues of fact that still need to be sorted out by a trier of fact. And what that means is, I say it's black, you say it's white. We're going to go before a judge. You're going to testify it's white. I'm going to testify it's black. And the judge is going to look at me and look at you, and they're going to judge your credibility against my credibility. And the judge is going to have to say, I find you more credible or you more credible, and therefore I'm going to resolve that in favor of whatever party. And based on that, I'm going to make a ruling of law. So Northeastern claims that they believe that there are no issues of material fact. We've opposed it. We've cross-moved. So we'll see where we end up. But in the event that the summary judgment, which is be argued on May 20th, and it'll likely be 60 days or more before a summary judgment decision is issued. But in the event that it does not dispose of the case, there is a trial date scheduled for October 31st, 2022. And I will tell you that the trial court has reserved 3 weeks for the trial, anticipating a rather lengthy trial. And it likely will be a lengthy trial. There are a lot of facts, as you can imagine, whether or not somebody has dedicated something, a property to the public good, the public interest. is very fact specific, and it's not always a situation where you have a document that says, we hereby dedicate this to the public interest, and therefore we relinquish any right to develop. Typically, these kind of cases are through the actions of the party and how those are interpreted. So you're not going to have that clear-cut document that says that, but there will be evidence that shows, some of the statements in the press that Northeastern made, and some of the actions that the town has taken in reliance on those statements. And ultimately, the judge will have to make a determination whether that was enough for the so-called dedication. So again, the operative dates here are May 20th for the summary judgment, and then the trial is 10/31/2022. The discovery has been completed, and now we're just ready to hone ourselves for the summary judgment and then ultimately the trial if unsuccessful. So that case, it's another case of hurry up and wait. That case there's no further action that we're going to be taking at this point. The next case is I'm just trying to go in order, and I actually think that the next case that happened was the Conservation Commission appeals. As you may recall, there were notice of intent filed for the so-called pump house, and then, of course, for the CSI itself. The Conservation Commission held a number of hearings, and ultimately, well, maybe I got to back up a little bit. Under a notice of intent, a community has their Conservation Commission holds hearings, and there are typically two avenues for which an applicant must satisfy and must go. The first one is the Wetland Protection Act, which is the state act, which is oftentimes administered by DEP, but for our purposes, it's the towns, the local conservation commissions make the determination in the first instance, and then any appeal from a determination on the act goes to the DEP to the extent that the applicant has an issue with the determination by the Conservation Commission. The second avenue, and these are independent parallel avenues, if a town has a wetland protection bylaw that is more stringent than the act, a wetland protection bylaw can protect different interests or give more protection to interest. And the big one that typically comes up is that the act itself regulates and protects the resource areas, the wetlands. The wetland bylaws typically also protect the buffer zones around the wetlands. So they're more stringent than the act. So under a notice of intent, an applicant like Northeastern has to satisfy both the Wetland Protection Act and the bylaw. And it's usually a different analysis because one is more restrictive than the other. And that's the exact case here. The Conservation Commission approved the notice of intent under the act, but denied both notices of intent under the wetland bylaw. And as a result, the appeal process is a little bit different under the wetland bylaw. Under the, as I said to you before, under the act, it goes to DEP. Here it doesn't under the bylaw. It goes to the Superior Court under what is known as a certiorari appeal under section 249, section 4. And the way that works is the applicant files an appeal, the town or the commission has 90 days to assemble the record, which was the record before it. And once it assembles the record, it submits it and files it with the court, and that starts a clock ticking for what are known as motion for judgment on the pleadings. Similar to the summary judgment motion that I just outlined for you, a motion for judgment on the pleadings is essentially an argument that is made based on the record that was filed by the Conservation Commission. So a court's not going to take any additional evidence. It's not going to take testimony. There's not any depositions and there's not written discovery. It's going to take a look at the record before the Conservation Commission and say, based on this record, was it arbitrary and capricious for the Conservation Commission to deny this request? So where we sit here is there is the ability for an applicant, to the extent that there are relevant documents that aren't in the record, to file a motion to supplement the record. And typically courts will allow that motion to a limited extent. And that's exactly what happened here. We filed the record of proceedings. The applicant said, we want some additional information, part of which was because, well, we wanted to consolidate the two cases. The court never consolidated the two cases. So I think that I know that there were relevant documents in one case that were relevant to the other case that weren't part of it. So we supplemented the record. Both parties agreed to a supplement, and the record was supplemented and filed on April 15th. The parties had agreed that the motion for judgment on the pleadings to be filed by the applicant, Northeastern, is due on April 29th. So less than 2 weeks, about 9 days from now. Once we receive their motion for judgment on the pleadings, then we are able to oppose that, and our opposition is due at the end of the May 30th. Once the court has both motions, they will schedule a hearing, and there will be a motion hearing at which we will argue our case, at which they'll argue their case, and the court will take it under advisement. Again, you're probably looking at 60 to 90 days before a decision is issued on that. And just so that you know, under the relevant law, as long as there is a pending appeal of a denial under the wetland bylaw, an applicant cannot go forward and begin construction, provided the decision is relevant to the areas of construction. And here, I believe it is. So at this point, again, we're kind of in a holding pattern. We anticipate having our motion due filed before May 30th, but that is our ultimate deadline. The next case that was filed, I believe, was the eminent domain case under Chapter 80A. I think we were probably most familiar with this one, since this one took up an awful lot of bandwidth during many select board hearings and during town meeting last year. But that case was filed, and as I think I've explained before, in a case like this, there are two issues before the court. There's the validity of the taking itself. Was it for a public purpose? And if the answer to that is yes, then we have to determine whether or not the compensation given by the town was adequate. Was it just compensation under the statute and under the Constitution? So what courts will typically do, and of course, if the answer to the validity question is no, then it ends, and the property goes back to the property owner. But what courts will typically do when there's a challenge to validity is they'll bifurcate it. They will split it up, because if the answer is it's not valid, then we don't have to go forward with the validity, with the valuation. So they don't. So that's exactly what the court has done here. They bifurcated the case, and we are now litigating the validity aspect of it. I think the last time we spoke, I had indicated to you that written discovery was due on or by the March 30th or 31st. Written discovery. We complied with their discovery request and we provided them, I think it was probably thousands of documents. We served discovery requests and we were provided with no documents. As a result, we have moved to compel the disclosure of documents. The other side has not at this point filed an opposition, but they have indicated that they will, and I'm positive that they will. So we are involved in that case in a discovery dispute. Once we've been able to get a court to rule on the discovery dispute, and we get the written documents that we're looking for, then depositions will take place. And depositions are a questioning of various witnesses under oath. I know that there's been a number of proposed deposition lists that are floating around out there. I'm not going to go too deep into it, other than to just say that I'm sure that that will be another area of dispute. But for right now, we have completed the discovery phase, the written discovery phase, and the other side hasn't. So we are currently addressing that. Once that is done and the depositions are taken, there will be another opportunity to file a motion for summary judgment. And if that's successful and we win on the validity, then we go to the valuation. If it's not successful, there will be a trial, and that's scheduled for sometime at the end of the year. So then the final one that I have is the plan.
Jeff?
Yep.
Jeff, a quick question. You said if the valuation is different from what the town was prepared to offer, it goes to a trial? I'm sorry. If the valuation, as we know under the ADA claim, if the validity is, if it's found to be valid, then we go to the valuation side of it, and then it goes to, as we all know, a 3-judge panel, who then makes a determination as to whether or not it was adequate or just compensation. And then either party would have the opportunity to appeal that to a jury. So if I misspoke, Mark, I'm sorry, I misspoke. But yes, you are correct. And as we also all know, at any time, the town, after the 3-judge panel comes back and says, I forgot what we gave them, I think it was 2.2 million. If a 3-judge panel comes back and says, no, it is 9.7 million, the town has the opportunity at that point to say, we're no longer interested, and we will back out. We will then be we will then have to pay and indemnify the other side in full for costs and other expenses. But again, this is the ADA process, and we do have the opportunity to back out up and until the 3-judge panel has made its determination. So then we have, now the final one is the planning board, and this is probably the one that, it's not probably, this is the newest one, and I do believe I touched on it briefly the last time, but I'll go into a little bit more depth. Under your zoning bylaw, well, typically a religious or educational use is essentially exempt from zoning with some minor caveats to that. There is some reasonable regulation for height, bulk, side yard setbacks, and some parking. But for the most part, they are exempt from zoning. Your bylaw has in it, your zoning bylaw, it's supposed to be exempt, but the HE and courts have allowed this. Your bylaw has in it what is known as a limited site plan review for religious and educational uses. And in there, the planning board is charged with holding a hearing, holding a meeting to determine whether or not the use that is being proposed is in fact an educational or religious use that is that should be allowed to be subject to the immunities found, the immunities found under the so-called Dover Amendment. Your planning board held such a hearing at which the Northeastern provided them with little, if any, documentation of the educational use to be used down there. The planning board, as a result, denied their site plan review and said that it wasn't an educational use, or as importantly, Northeastern had not provided them the necessary documentation and denied it. Northeastern, of course, appealed that,
and we are currently in full litigation status, in full litigation mode. Complaint was filed. In a zoning case, you don't have to file an answer. We've ramped up the discovery. Document requests have been sent out by us. Document requests have been sent out by Northeastern. There's been some back and forth between us and Northeastern regarding the relevance of some of the requests that they've made. They have trimmed some of them back. And we are currently in the process of responding to their requests. And I hope that they're in the process of responding to our request. We have also noticed what is known as a 30B6 deposition. A 30B6 is a deposition notice that you send out to Northeastern, to the other side, that says, and it's typically with businesses, we please provide for deposition the person with the most knowledge regarding the following topics. And then we list the various topics. And it's not uncommon for a business or an organization to provide 3, 4, 5 different 30B6 deponents because of the various areas of which we are asking them to provide testimony for. So we've sent out a 30B6 deposition notice, and that deposition is to take place on June 8th. Obviously, as that goes forward and we get additional documentation, we may or may not ask for additional depositions. The whole discovery closes on August 10th. Once discovery closes, just like in the Article 97 case, we then evaluate whether or not we believe we have a chance for a motion for summary judgment. If we do, we file the summary judgment. If we don't, then we ultimately wait for trial. This is not a jury trial. As a matter of law, 48 Section 17 appeals are not jury. So this will be before a judge. And I think that that's it. I'm happy to take some questions, although with the caveat that I'm not going to get too deep into strategy.
Well, that's a great summary, Jeff. I'm going to take a shot at condensing it down to a short story in Cliff Notes version, and you correct me if I make any mistakes. So the first case is the Chapter 97 or dedication case.
Yeah.
The question of summary judgment will be addressed at the hearing on May 20th, and if that summary judgment does not pass, the trial will begin October 31st of 2022.
That's correct. Yep.
The Conservation Commission case is a case of Conservation Commission denying the notice of intent based on Nahant's local wetlands bylaw.
Yep.
That appeal goes to the state Supreme Court, and that is simply a documents review. There's no depositions or it's a review of the documents that are related to that notice of intent application and the Conservation Commission's hearings and findings.
That is correct. The one minor correction, Josh, is that it's the Superior Court.
Superior Court, sorry, yeah.
Superior Court. That's it. Yep.
And then the eminent domain case, the ADA eminent domain case, there's 2 actions. The first is the validity case. And that is basically whether the taking is for a valid public purpose. And if it is judged that that is for a valid public purpose, the only remaining issue would, as judged by the three-person commission, is the amount of appropriate compensation.
That's correct.
And then the final one is the planning board site plan review. The site plan review was rejected by the planning board on the basis of inadequate response to their inquiries. And that is in the discovery phase.
That is correct. And there was also a question as to whether or not the so-called Dover Amendment actually applied to the Natural Resources District, which will likely be the subject of a motion for summary judgment. So I was a little short. There were a couple of other bases for the planning board's denial.
Okay, great. That's all I just wanted to sort of condense your words down to something that I could remember anyway.
Just a quick question, if I could, Jeff. Given the sequence of events that both you and Josh just went through, the question most often asked is, what's the time frame for this to all exercise itself?
I think ultimately the longest case that we're going to have will be the eminent domain case. And if the validity is to be determined by a trial at the end of the year, you're probably looking at another year or so for the valuation portion of it. So we're looking at, probably 18 months or better. And that doesn't include appeals by on either side of an adverse determination by a court.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have any other, Mark, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I think it's been covered very thoroughly. So thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you guys. It's good seeing you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
All
Thanks
right,
for
we'll see you guys later.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jeff.
All right, bye.
All right, next item on the agenda is the town administrator's report.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff, for that update. So I basically this week, we are working, together with department heads and the finance committee and CPC, to get the FinCom book ready to go to print on Friday so that it can be delivered in time to the residents for the town meeting. I'm also happy to report that last week, Allison, myself, and Zach Taylor all completed our first required training and test for our procurement certification. It's a 3-phase process. The next class is in about a month. So we completed that last week too. We've had, over the last 2 weeks, we've been actually really over the last month, but it's ramped up over the last couple of weeks. We've been having continued conversations with FEMA, conversations with CZM, Coastal Zone Management, and also conversations with MEMA, who control the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Really talking to them about making strides towards the outstanding damage projects that we received funding for from FEMA, so that we can, complete those and kind of really turn the page and start working on other preparedness projects as well. Conversations have been going really well. I think that the agencies are happy to see, the direction that we're going in, and Applied Coast, Trey from Applied Coastal, our coastal engineer, is doing a great job, keeping that line of communication open and keeping things moving in the right direction. So that's probably the second largest priority after, spending the amount of time that we are on town meeting preparations. And then really beyond that, as the weather starts to warm up, our DPW is out there doing a ton of work to reopen our open spaces and kind of give them their spring cleanings. And with that as well, administratively here in the town hall, we're really looking towards the summer, and thinking about summer events and get-togethers and community events that, now that we're on the other side of the last 2 years, kind of trying to maintain separation due to COVID. Now we're really trying to come up with ways to bring the community back together. So we've been working a lot on that too. And we'll get back, into the thick of that after we get through this week and then after town meeting. And the next, largest group gathering that we have is going to be Memorial Day, which, we're happy that it's going to be a pre-pandemic version of the Memorial Day parade, back to what we're all used to, and hopefully we have a great turnout and great weather. And that's all I have to report.
All right, thanks, Tony. I'm really excited to see all our community activities start to resume again. Feels good after a couple of years of being hunkered down, so that's good. And the work that you're doing with FEMA and MEMA and CZM and all that, feels like we're starting to get some traction with some of these projects that are going to be really important for Nahant in terms of coastal resiliency and protection from storms. That's going to be a big push for, I think, the board and the town administrator in this coming year. These are complicated and expensive projects and efforts, funding and permitting and all that stuff. But it's going to be a big focus for the town over this coming year. So I'm looking forward to some progress there.
Thank you.
Anything else?
We had, I think, since, in between our last Board of Selectmen meeting and this one was the Lowlands neighborhood meeting that we had. So, I've had some additional follow-up or email exchanges with the group since then. I think they were very appreciative to meet Dubois and King's stormwater project manager, Amy Rutledge. And, I think we are, excited about that progress as well.
Yeah, just as a reminder for folks, so at last year's annual town meeting, some funding was approved for engineering work in that lowlands area, and an engineering firm has been retained and is in the middle of their study, looking at the drainage, the topography, recommendations, all that stuff. And we're all really looking forward to their final report, which is still a few months away, but we expect that report to be sort of our framework for the guidance going forward and addressing that issue. That will play into our future approaches in terms of potential requests to the Army Corps of Engineer and maintenance schedules and drainage plans and all that sort of thing. So that's an important engineering report that we'll have available in a few months anyway.
What's the time frame, Josh, once we get all these reports and studies done in terms of the putting the shovel in the ground and beginning the project?
I'm sure it depends on what the report recommends. Yeah, I think that's the answer. It depends on what the report says.
The report will be finalized in June and July, which is good timing as far as, any funding that gets approved in May won't be eligible until July anyways. So that's good timing. Report will be finalized, and then, we can take that report and start using, if the funding gets approved in May, we can, start programming that right away in July. But, any work that we do is going to have to go through a permitting process, and depending on the extent of that work, you could be dealing with a simple local Concom permit, which isn't very long at all, or you could be triggering, MIPA and Chapter 90, and, right now, those processes could be anywhere from like 8 to 14 months. So that's some of the challenge we're dealing with those other coastal projects I talked about earlier. So we'll see, that'll all be part of the report, and, something for us to consider as we decide how we want to attack, the different capital items.
Yeah, so, just to clarify, yeah, one of the deliverables of the engineering study is permitting costs and estimates for various options. So, we'll be able to say, okay, to permit X will cost, $300,000 and take 18 months or whatever the answer is. But that's one of the deliverables of the engineering study, is the permitting costs and schedule estimates anyway.
All right, thanks.
And then just one last thing I'd like to mention is we, leading up to town meeting, I will be providing informational sessions through Zoom, potentially, open it up to in person or at the town hall or some type of hybrid option. I haven't quite figured out the final dates, but that I will be doing that in the month of May, leading up to town meeting. And my first kind of public briefing about the town meeting warrant and budget will be on Friday morning, May 6th, at the first community breakfast that is being held by the village church. So prior to COVID, they were having community breakfast the first Friday of every month, Friday morning of every month. And this is the first one that they're having back after COVID. So excited to go, and I'll be speaking there about budget and warrant topics. So I'm sure, the village church will be happy to invite everyone to, anybody that's interested in going to the community breakfast. It's back starting in May.
That's great. And I just encourage anyone that has the opportunity to go to one of these information sessions that Tony hosts to do so, because it really, it'll give you a chance to understand the budget prior to town meeting and make for a smooth town meeting. I think you'll go into town meeting informed about some of these budget items, like a large sewer borrowing request. So those are, it'd be nice to understand that stuff in advance of the meeting. So I'd encourage anyone to attend that can attend.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tony?
Nope.
All right. Next item is citizens forum. So anybody who has any comments that's on the Zoom call may unmute themselves and ask or comment or ask a question. If you're unable to unmute yourself, you could put something in the chat as well. In either case, please announce your name and address and ask your question.
Hi, Brennan Baronic Olmsted, 2 Summer Street. I had a follow-up question about that survey with the drone. Were you able to find out if they're going to use if LiDAR was an option?
No, we're not there yet, Brendan. That'll come after town meeting if the funds are approved.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Feel free to unmute yourself. Let's see. I don't hear anyone. Look at Bob. You want to say something?
Yeah, please. Thanks, Josh. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
I want to take off of what Tony said about the great work of the DPW. We're really thankful for their support last month when we were preparing for our service, recognizing the Vietnam Veterans Day. Frankly, that is so early in the spring. Without their help, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to be able to hold that service outside. We wish it was a warm summer day, but it's not. But we really appreciate all of the DPW. And I did want to just follow up just a tiny bit on the events that we discussed earlier in the call. We, the American Legion, are working hard to, to create community inclusive activities that support our core pillars, which many people don't know. The American Legion actually has goals, missions, and pillars, that we work towards. And those include, of course, supporting our veterans, but also supporting the youth, which we do with some educational activities, as well as our scholarship program, but also supporting a strong national defense as well as Americanism. So you notice one thing we talked about this evening was the flag retirement, and often people will bring us their flags, down to the post for us to do that. Well, this year we really want to make that special and invite the community down, and there'll be more information posted. But on June 10th, just a few days before Flag Day, we will be doing a large flag retirement service. And in fact, our officer who will be running that program is a former director of security at Massport and has retired over 10,000 flags at one time. So I'm hoping we don't get 10,000 flags, but please, bring your flags down and participate in that service. And we're also doing some new things. On May 13th, we're going to be hosting a fundraiser to support a local Nahant swimmer. There'll be more information to come at the Boston Frogman Swim. This is a Navy SEAL specific fundraiser, specifically for families who lost their loved ones, their Navy SEALs, either to combat, or two of the co-chair people are actually losses due to suicide, veteran suicide. So a very important activity, but we're really looking to educate the community on that. In fact, my brother-in-law is a Navy SEAL, so we'll have a guest speaker talking about what it's like to be a SEAL in the importance of the fundraiser. But I appreciate the few minutes. And also, we're really excited about Memorial Day. I want to give Ed Manzano a shout out as chairperson of the committee, who has really been thrown into the breach, filling the shoes of Molly Conlon, who was the chairperson for 20 or 30 years. We have our Grand Marshal we'll be announcing soon, which we're really excited about, but we really look forward to the citizens lining the streets and seeing the parade again. So we're really excited about this patriotic season we're in. This is my second year as commander, and I guess I finally realized that March to June is pretty darn busy. But they're important things for us to remember. So we really appreciate the community support of veterans, and I just wanted to say thank you this evening.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Definitely the town appreciates everything that the American Legion does. Any more comments? Anything in the chat, Tony?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. With that, we are going to end the open session of this meeting and move into an executive session. I guess I can read this part, and which will be followed by a motion. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy as to an impending litigation against HUD regarding 9 Little Nahant Road, and B, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the value of 9 Little Nahant Road. Do we have a motion on that? That could be maybe a so moved.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn to executive session.
Second,
Any discussion? We will not be returning to open session after this executive session.
I'll just add to that. I was asked earlier today about, the purpose of this executive session, kind of, and how it ties into the property being put up for sale. So, Dan, feel free to stop me, but I just wanted to provide a little extra context. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss the town's, strategy regarding potential litigation with HUD. And really what that's talking about is what we've talked about previously is this, the deferred taxes that the town is owed versus or compared to what HUD is owed through their reverse mortgage. And that's what we're, discussing in this executive session is, are the town's strategy regarding, the issue of recovering those deferred taxes. It doesn't have anything to do with, the current, the property being currently up for sale.
Well, that's right, Tony. You got it right. The auction from HUD's perspective is now sort of back on the table. And that's why we went to executive session last time, because we might have to bring a suit to secure proceeds from that sale. So now that auction is sort of back on the, it's not on the front burner, but it's getting there. So that's why we're back into executive session.
So the focus is recovering the taxes due to Nahant.
Taxes and interest, yep.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
We staying on this, Tony?
Yep. Just give me a second to set us up.
We'll ask anyone else to drop off the call, please.